Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Calvert. Alongside, well, you know him. If you don't, I can't help you, okay? I mean, everybody around the world knows Father Joe Grimaldi, and we would like to welcome you to the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. The Lincoln Spring Sales event is going on now at Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln. Shop online at starlincoln.com and take a virtual tour of their incredible 2021 lineup. The Aviator, the all-new Corsair, the Nautilus, the impressive Navigator. Want a sedan? Well, now's the time to make an incredible deal on the remaining 2020 Lincoln MKZs. Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln celebrating 50 years as the area's premier Lincoln dealer with service second to none, from an oil change to a major repair. Looking for a previously owned Lincoln? My friends, look no further than Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln. Call Star Lincoln 248-354-4900 for sales or service. Father Joe Grimaldi and I are both driving a Star Lincoln because, not unlike you, we receive the Star treatment. Simply head to starlincoln.com or call 248-354-4900. When I was probably in about the third, I guess it would have been the third grade, the fourth grade, I remember going to St. Bede here locally in southeast Lower Michigan, and the opportunity came around for us to be altar boys, altar persons.
Servers.
I've never been so excited in my life. I remember studying Latin, the Confiteor,
or introibo day.
Exactly. But it was, let's just call it what it was back then. In the 60s, it was men. It was boys. There were no girls that were altar servers back then. I absolutely fell in love with being a server. I liked the cassock. I liked the surplice. I liked the fact that we knew how to lay out the various vestments. It was really just a great thing to do. Look out at the parishioners. Church was always packed. Of course, you guys were working the railing back in the day with the patens, and people would wait in line and fill up and kneel down at the altar. I really enjoyed it. Now that's gone away, but the server is still a very important part of the Mass. Here's my point. Here's the topic. Where have all the servers gone? It seems to me seniors have taken over the role as servers. 70% of the servers are seniors?
I can't say the percentage, but I must say this, that there's a reason for it, of course. And the reason being that, first of all, there was an equality issue that came up in the church. Why aren't girls allowed to do the same thing that young men are doing? Well, then the other problem was, if you introduce girls, boys are not, because of their nature and because of psychological issues, they're not going to want to be altar boys anymore because you have the girls taking over. Then you have the problem of scandals in the church, and so they felt better to have adults than to have young people as the altar servers or the acolytes or whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
They have different names for them. But basically, that's the reason. Now, I think in certain parishes, I'm lucky to be in a parish where for every Mass, and I hope that continues, there are 4 acolytes, 4 servers.
Mm-hmm.
And invariably, it's going to be 3 girls and 1 boy. I don't know why, but that's the way it works out. And they each have to carry the candle going down, and they all have their assigned who gets to do this, that, or the other thing. But the altar service during the week, I don't think they even call them that. I think they call them sacristans, and they're the ones who are the adults, and basically they put out the vessels and things of this sort. They do what the altar boy, in quotes, used to do years ago. But I think there are a couple of reasons why that happened. Basically, the scandals. You don't want kids to be near priests.
Wow.
And the other thing was the equality issue where you have boys, there should be girls allowed to do it. But, at that age, it's part of the age thing. At that age, boys don't like to be part of a girls' group. And see what happens as soon as it was opened up, wow, lots of girls decided to become altar servers. Well, now, unfortunately, it's very hard to get anybody, okay?
Yeah,
they just soon sleep in.
Absolutely, yeah.
However, at the place where I work, we have always, for all of the masses on the weekend, we have 4 assigned. Now, I don't know if that's going to continue forever. It seems to be working now because when I go to other churches, that's not the case. They could hardly get 2, never mind 4. And so it's an interesting thing that St. Hugo's has been able to carry out that discipline. But anyway, I don't know what's going to go. For the weekday masses, it's mostly adults.
I kind of get the logistics of having somebody bring you the necessary vessels that you need during a Mass. You're going to need people bringing up the water, the cruets. You're going to need some assistance with the water and the wine, right? They are basically assistants to the entire Mass.
It happens very often that you say Mass by yourself.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, so it's a matter of you force yourself to do the stuff that they would do ordinarily. And it can happen. It works.
Let me ask you this. Would it make any difference if you just had it that way? If the priest could just walk down the aisle without the candles, without the cross? You don't have servers. What if you just eliminated the server altogether?
That happens most of the time, Ken.
Okay.
It's not just occasionally.
No, I realize that, but I mean, I'm talking about
theologically or
totally eliminating the entire purpose of having a server.
It would not affect the validity of the Mass. Let me explain something else. The reason why we had altar boys was to get the boy involved with coming near the priest so that eventually there would be a priestly vocation.
Absolutely.
And so that they would kind of try to imitate what the priest was doing. They liked what he was doing. They would then ask questions like, how do I become a priest if I want to become a priest?
Right.
And the priest, of course, if he was sharp enough, he would say, well, you'll have to wait a while. You're just too young right now, but maybe in high school you might want to give it some more thought, and we'll go from there. But then in the year 2000, everything blew up in the church, and it had to do with the scandals. And, of course, at that point, priests were afraid to be near any young person. And actually, they still are to an extent.
Oh, I would think so.
That hasn't gone away. As a matter of fact, I remember, when you're in the schoolyard at recreation time, if you ever look at 5, 6, 7-year-olds, they love to come and they put their arms around the legs of the adults.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing going on in their minds that evil. But anyway, the priest freezes now if he's there. He usually goes like this and raises his hands. And then, of course, he wants parents to be there too so that nothing funny would go on. So it's a real awakening that now we have to be on guard when we are with young people. And so that's gone.
I knew this would be not only an interesting topic, I hope it's interesting, but it's also one that really sort of brings forth that problem that, as you mentioned, around 2000, priests, kids equal molestation, pedophilia, whatever you want to call it. And that's too bad, because as a kid, I remember exactly what you were talking about. You were kind of dressing almost like a priest. You know what I mean? You were wearing a surplice.
And you wanted to be.
And you were right up front with the altar, the book, the whole process. You felt good, and you thought, maybe this is something I'd want to do,
right.
Become a priest, or think about it. And I remember even as an altar, and I have to use the word altar boy because that's just...
Well, that's what it was.
Yeah, as an altar boy, most of my friends were altar boys. We had some laughs, some giggles, some stupid
Sneak
giggles.
a little wine.
And, well, yes, there were those that did that, but also...
Who's going to ring the bell?
I got flipping a coin for bells and cruets. But I remember also being able to take a paten and kind of give, a little paten right in the Adam's apple, like, here you go, Chris. Just that sort of, I don't know, innocence and hijinks as a kid, you know what I mean?
Of course.
It truly was that bells of St. Mary. That's never going to happen again.
No, it's over.
Yeah, that has become a story. All right, sit around, everybody. I'm going to tell you a story about when there were altar boys. Not the dark side, but the good side. But people automatically go to the dark side.
Yeah, yes. It depends on the
That's why I was
time.
asking. That's why I was asking you if, in fact, at some point, the elimination takes care of the problem.
But they want to the extent that now there is in many of the churches a separate room for vestments for the priest, and then a separate room for the vestments for the vestry is for the priest, and the altar servers have their own place to go to. And if they're scheduled, they check off the fact that they're there, and then they pick out their alb or whatever it is, but they have separate rooms even. I think what you said before is going to become common unless it's a high holy day when adults will probably participate as servers. But otherwise, for morning mass, in most churches, it's the priest by himself.
Yeah, it's all set up. It's right there. Everything's on the altar. And so, again, I'm waxing poetic because when I saw the article, and I took the article from the Catholic News Agency, the Pope had just given servers a nod and a special message, you know what I mean,
Right.
that their job was important. And then I started thinking, is it really necessary?
You see, what the Pope is getting at, though, it's the importance is not the fact that they're there, but it is the spiritual enhancement that the server should experience once he is there.
Right.
But it's not the fact that you have a server, but the fact that if that server is there, there has to be a serious spiritual content to it. So it's not just, okay, I have to carry the book or I have to do this. It's a matter of, why am I getting close to all these church things? I hope they're reminding me of my closeness to the Lord. And maybe we may have vocations to the priesthood. And maybe after I'm gone, there might be women priests as well. So it might work the other way too.
Right.
So, but I don't know if our Protestant brothers and sisters have servers. They have acolytes that are adult that dress a certain way.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've seen young people do that. But maybe there are.
I don't know. I don't mean to just say, I sound like I'm throwing my hands up going, I don't know.
No.
I'm not Archie Bunker on this
No,
one.
I don't
I'm
think
looking
you're
at it
doing that.
realistically, and I just happened to see the article, and I thought, boy, that's a good topic for a podcast. And I'm going to stay with that because of the fact that it actually had a part in my shaping of my overall, I don't want to say lifestyle, but a little bit. It got me closer to religion, and it also put me on a clock. There was a 6 o'clock mass.
Sure.
I was duty bound by a lot of this.
Yeah.
And it was an opportunity. You were closer to the priest than most parishioners were.
Sure.
So we're running out of time, but final question for you. Do you have dialogue with the servers at all, pre or post mass service?
If they are, they're
services?
very, yeah. Well, the only thing is this, that maybe a congratulatory word before the mass starts. First of all, as I mentioned to you before, you have separate rooms for vesting. So the priest vests in one room, then the altar servers vest in another. And so that you don't have that interaction. Now, there is a 2 or 3 minute interaction while we line up before the Mass begins. And so they're standing there, especially in a place like where I am. You have 4 servers. They each have their candles. They're holding their candles. And I said, you did a good job last time. You've got to be the best servers. You try to encourage them.
Yeah, right.
You know, why am I so lucky to get the best of the lot?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. But actually, no deep discussion on have you ever thought about being a priest? Well,
Yeah.
that happens on occasion.
Okay.
But
only if the server approaches you.
yeah,
How about maybe
you might even do it once without him approaching you. But there aren't that many. Well, there are. We have usually 2 and 2, but sometimes 1 and 3. So not as many as there used to be. All
Right.
to boys.
Yeah.
But we have acolytes, enough of them anyway.
You have enough servers to still making themselves available.
Oh, they're on the schedule for sure.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. They have to show up. They are showing up.
Consistent?
A lot of it depends on who the trainer is. Very often, if you have somebody that really cares, he's or she is going to encourage the kids to come, make sure that if the numbers are going down as they graduate and all of this other stuff, they'll get more servers and so on and so forth. If you get somebody that's just doing it as, well, I'll do it, and doesn't really care, the numbers are not going to keep up to date, and that's where the problems start, when you start saying, nobody's here to serve today, you know?
Yeah.
And it starts little by little. Next week, oh, we don't have 4, we have 2, or we have 1, and before you know it, there's nobody.
Right.
So to answer your question, I think it depends on who the person is who is in charge of the servers.
It's feeling better each and every week that we get together, that life appears to be getting back to, I guess, whatever normal is, but we'll have to forever and a day now refer to it as our new normal. It's good. I'm relieved. I feel better. It feels like a lot of the weight has been lifted off of me. I don't know about you, but it just seems like things, knock wood, say a prayer, things seem to be stabilizing and getting back to a bit of our normal lives.
I agree with you wholeheartedly,
Yeah.
Ken. The thing is this, that as a priest, I don't think I've ever stopped being in the public, even though
Yeah.
we were limited, but we still had to be there. So we had to be there, for example, to produce the online service. So we were getting up and going anyway.
Yeah.
That made a difference, I think, because I wasn't in my room all the time for the whole time, which a lot of people had to be at home
Yeah.
and so on. So I was lucky, and I recognized that. But I feel what you feel right now. I feel there's a breath of fresh air. Things
Yeah.
are happening better and so
Spring has sprung, and
Yeah.
I feel young.
on. Yeah.
How about a prayer, and we'll call it the Father Joe Podcast.
Okay. Heavenly Father, please hear us when we tell you of our concerns of sending our children and educators back to school. Know that we are striving to make all of the right decisions and need your love and power to help us overcome any difficulties. Please watch over everyone as times and routines are about to change once again. We know that we can do anything through you. So please help us ensure health and semi-normalcy in the coming months. We give our hearts to you now and forever. Amen. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe Podcast.
We'd like to remind you to share the Father Joe Podcast with your friends. You can reach Father Joe at frjoepodcast@gmail.com, and you can find us on Facebook or say, Alexa, play the Father Joe Podcast. We look forward to seeing you next time.